Hi, I'm Paul Pugliese with the University of Georgia Cooperative Extension. Today we're looking at an old oak tree. And we get a lot of calls about oak trees that have various problems. But today we're looking at a leaf problem on oak trees that we're seeing this year in particular. And if you look really close at the leaves, you'll see the leaves are getting lots of spots on them. The spots may start out really small in the springtime. Sometimes they'll get sort of a yellowish discoloration around the spots. And then as the spots get a little bit bigger, as the season progresses, they'll get sort of these blister-like pustules on the back sides of the leaves that kind of swell up, where the cells are actually multiplying very rapidly in a response to a fungal disease. And we actually call this disease oak leaf blister. This is one of the more common diseases that we see on oak trees in Georgia. And it affects pretty much any oak tree species. Some oaks are maybe a little more susceptible than others. In this case, we're looking at a water oak, which is one of the more common oak species, especially in North Georgia here. And it is very susceptible to this particular disease. Now, this disease is something that it'll come and go. Some years are going to be worse than others, kind of depending on the weather. When we have a lot of cool, wet weather in the springtime, we tend to see more of this type of disease infection occurring, and it tends to spread more rapidly. And it can get very dramatic to the point where, you know, a really wet, rainy spring, almost every single leaf on that tree will be infected. In fact, I can hardly find any leaf on this tree that is not infected with oak leaf blister right now. And as the season progresses, it gets even more dramatic. These blisters continue to swell up, they start to deform the leaves, and it looks really bad. So what's interesting is this disease is, because it's not really harmful to the tree, it just looks bad. It's not something that we recommend spraying for or treating for. And from a practical standpoint, it's really not easy to spray a large tree anyway. You'd have to hire an arborist, and by the time you notice the symptoms of the disease, it's too late to spray anyway. The spores of this disease are actually wind-blown in the early spring, and they are dispersed, and actually they'll carry over on the buds in the wintertime. And so the disease is already present before the leaves even come out in the springtime. And so if you were going to avoid this disease, you would have to spray right at bud break and during that leaf expansion in early spring to avoid this disease problem. So again, by the time you notice it, it's kind of too little too late to do anything about it anyway. The only time we might think about spraying a tree is if it were a young tree, a really small tree that you just planted for the first couple of years. Maybe you're trying to keep some of the stress off of that tree from any diseases. You could use a fungicide. You would have to, again, spray that right at bud break and during that early leaf expansion every 7 to 10 days in the springtime. But otherwise, this is a disease that we generally don't worry about on oak trees. So if you have any more questions about your trees or diseases and insects that might affect trees and shrubs in your landscape, reach out to your local county extension office by calling 1-800-ASK-UGA-1 and go to our website at UGAExtension.com and continue to follow us on the Georgia Farm Monitor.